Tonight, provincial parties, industry leaders, and consumers react to U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to pause tariffs.
The right time to be purely focused on buying Canadian and buying Newfoundland and Labrador products.
Despite the tariff timeout, the province is encouraging people to buy local.
Although we've been given a temporary reprieve, we do not know where this is going to go.
There's a lot of uncertainty right now. So how you negotiate a price for snow crab when there are so many open-ended questions?
Leaders in the crab fishery aren't taking time to breathe and say the next month should be used wisely.
We had storage rooms. We had the cafeteria being used as classrooms. Any space we could find, we turned it into a classroom space.
I think it's in another exciting moment that was long overdue.
In Shahajit, students and teachers now have more space thanks to a new addition to the school.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. The provincial government unveiled a new Buy Local campaign today to encourage residents to purchase products made here or in other parts of Canada. It's in response to the tariff threat by U.S. President Donald Trump, which is now on hold, but local businesses are still wary of what's on the horizon. Abby Cole reports.
The province wants people to buy local. They're spreading the message. Let's take care of each other during these uncertain times.
And to actively remind people to do just that, the province has introduced a new campaign and logo to support local stores like Urban Market in St. John's.
So that when you as a consumer go to pick up a product, you have a moment to pause and reflect on where the product was made, where it came from, and the values perhaps that it represents.
Whether through social media engagement or simply choosing locally sourced potatoes for dinner, every small action contributes to a larger movement in supporting and contributing to our own local economy.
This comes after Trump threatened a 25% tariff on goods imported to the U.S. After that was put on pause last night, U.S. alcohol made its way back onto shelves this morning. For now.
We didn't want to have an immediate knee-jerk reaction, but we do respect, different than the President of the United States, existing legal obligations and existing trade agreements. That said, if he decides to put tariffs on, then all bets are off the table and he's violated his own agreement.
For St. John's florist Holland Nurseries, actively promoting local products is a welcome move.
Far better to buy that than to be trucking stuff in from California, and just because it's a few cents cheaper, thinking that that's a good thing.
And yet, for business owners, concerns about possible U.S. tariffs are far from gone. Before Trump's pivot last night, Frecker wasn't sure whether flowers for Valentine's Day would have the extra tax added.
For the next 30 days, we just go on in a state of uncertainty, not sure what's going to happen, but it could be totally disruptive. We're having to look at possibly trying to bypass the United States completely and go directly to South America.
Starting today, retailers will be able to access marketing materials on the government website. And in the coming days, consumers will see more labels pointing them towards local products at the store. Abby Cole, CBC News, St. John's.
NDP leader Jim Dinn was also at the announcement at the Urban Market, where he gave his assessment of the new campaign. The PC party leader did not attend the event, but Tony Wakeham says shopping locally should be promoted all year long.
I think it was a novel idea. You got local produce here. I would say for a lot of people, it introduced them to local products that they probably would not have known about before. So I think it's a positive thing.
The Premier responded to your calls to reopen the House of Assembly that there wasn't really a need to do that at this time. What are your thoughts on that?
I still think there's a need, if nothing else, to demonstrate unity. Let's call it an extraordinary session. This is unprecedented, and I think if nothing else, it's certainly to demonstrate that unity. Regardless of our political stripe, that's the one thing I made very clear in reaching out to the Premier. At this time, we need to see past those partisan divides.
Well, I think it's always important to remind people about the number of products that we actually produce here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I think that has to be a message that we should be sending out constantly and reminding people of the advantages of buying local and how it helps our economy and helps the people that are actually producing these goods. And so, yeah, I'm all in favor of buying locally. I don't think it should just happen because of we find ourselves in a tariff crisis. I've spoken out about the need for us to be having plans in place to deal with these tariffs, and I've also spoken out many times on other issues. So it's not about a photo op for me. It's about messaging to make sure that the people in Newfoundland and Labrador, that we have a plan to help them.
Now, at the event, Premier Furey also responded to reporter questions about why he's working on a tariff response with both the NDP and independents, but not with the PCs.
Well, they've reached out. So, and we've shown the ability to have mature adult conversations, one that doesn't employ Trump-style behavior with memes and silly slogans. So anytime there's someone that's willing to have an adult conversation, a mature conversation and dialogue, I'm happy to entertain.
And PC leader Tony Wakeham says he's been trying to collaborate with the Liberals without success.
There's only one person in the House of Assembly that went to the inauguration of Donald Trump, and that was the Premier celebrating Donald Trump. The reality of this is I have written this government on many occasions, most recently in relation to the MOU, with an opportunity for improvements on how the process could be handled differently. We never did get a response to that. So I will continue to stand up for the people in Newfoundland and Labrador and ask tough questions.
Well, despite this 30-day reprieve on tariffs, the fishing industry continues to plan for major disruptions. Today, the fisheries minister announced a new roundtable and millions for market diversification. Here in Terry Roberts has more.
There was a collective exhale Monday when Donald Trump said he would pause for a month the 25% border tax on Canadian goods, including seafood products entering the United States. But the U.S. president is about as unpredictable as the weather in the North Atlantic. So calls for a united effort to prepare for the worst were answered today by the fisheries minister. Jerry Byrne announced that nearly $6 million will be available over the next 2 years to investigate market opportunities in Europe and Asia. The money was originally committed to the Association of Seafood Producers to study quality issues. But in light of one of the biggest threats to the fishery since the moratorium, Byrne said that money is being redirected.
It just is sensible to prepare for the long term and diversify out of the United States.
For weeks, in the face of tariff threats, Premier Andrew Furey has led a roundtable with wide representation from various industries, labor and community leaders. But the fishery is the lifeblood of rural Newfoundland and Labrador, supporting the livelihoods of thousands of harvesters, plant workers, and adjacent industries such as trucking. So on Monday, the Fisheries Union and the trade group that represents seafood producers called for a separate fisheries roundtable. They're getting their wish.
That's a must, and it's already been scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, starting at 10:30 a.m.
Dozens of people from all sectors of the wild fishery and aquaculture will meet virtually to discuss tariffs, new markets, and possible income support if the worst-case scenario unfolds and this year's harvest is interrupted. One thing that won't be on the agenda, collective bargaining between these two. Because of the tariff threat, negotiations on a shore price for harvesters are as complicated as ever. Processors face the risk of shipping thousands of tons of seafood to the U.S. under one set of economic circumstances, and then having that upended with a single tweet from President Trump.
If we're locked into a price that we cannot change, then we could be in a situation where there's not just a shutdown of a fishery, but a lot of businesses could suffer dramatically.
How you negotiate a price for snow crab when there are so many open-ended questions, it's kind of left up in the air. So time is running very, very short.
But the minister likes the display of unity between the ASP and the Fisheries Union.
I feel exceptionally confident, more confident than I've ever felt before, with the two players at the table.
Meanwhile, those wishing to get their hands on some of that market diversification money will have to apply to the Fisheries Department. But that's a longer-term solution. The key effort right now is to get boats like this on the water by mid-March. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, as those in the fishing industry continue to watch for any news from Washington, consumers are also paying close attention. While some are feeling relief about the tariff pause, others don't feel confident it will last. We spoke with people in Corner Brook about their concerns and what steps they'd like to see next.
Trump is back down because of the tariffs thrown back at him. Hopefully everything will equal out and things will just stay the way it is with the agreements that they already have.
I think border security certainly should be boosted up, but I think he's also, nobody knows what he wants, and it almost seems like he wants to take us over to economic warfare. But my biggest concern is where the market is going and where the jobs are going.
I think they should be able to work together, because we've always been friends with the United States. There's never been anything like this happen before. And I think there's a way to work it out. And being a brother, being next door, I think that the United States should have some thought behind it, to do better. We could do better.
As a very proud Canadian, I am glad we're responding as we should, which is nice. I did do a big grocery shop just in case. But no, overall, I'm getting ready for it because I know things are going to go up, and in Newfoundland especially, where we have to ship a lot of things. But yeah, no, I've done more research into shopping Canadian. Product of Canada versus made in Canada, that kind of thing is really important. Shopping local, supporting local farmers, all that has really been a big focus for the last couple days. We've had more conversations with it and with my family and friends than we've ever had about supporting local, but yeah, we're buckling down, getting ready for it.
Let's shift to some other news now. Newfoundland and Labrador has a new Correctional Services Act and regulations. The new act came into effect yesterday and replaces both the Prisons Act from 1967 and the Adult Corrections Act from 1975. The regulations outline procedures such as inmate health care and staff duties. In a statement, the Provincial Department of Justice called the new act a significant step towards a modern correctional system in which safety, security, improved conditions for both inmates and staff will be priorities. Well, to Labrador now, where a big celebration was held yesterday as Shahajit Innu School hosted a grand opening. Not just one, but 2 wings were added to the facility, and that extra space will make a big difference.
It's been a long time waiting for our extension of the school because we were running out of classrooms. So this is an exciting time for the students and teachers. We've got our extension primary wing and high school wing opening up. We've got 10 extra classrooms.
Our graduating rates are gone up really high, so I think this will make them more higher as we speak here today, because there's a culture center here, which we never had before. We had an industrial arts room when I was working here at the time, but now we actually have a culture room. It's very important for the community to be totally involved in our culture.
We've been really overcrowded. Any space we could find, we turned it into a classroom space. So now we got a separate computer room now. We have now separate classrooms for Innu culture and language, which we didn't have before. We basically had Innu teachers with their trolleys and going into the classrooms. So now they have their own rooms. Mm-hmm.
I think it's another exciting moment that was long overdue. And I think the community is very excited and students are excited.
Well, definitely it's a warm up today for parts of the province with some rain this afternoon. Area of low pressure moving out now, and temperatures are definitely much cooler in behind that. Certainly up across Labrador, but that is the case across the island as well. If we take a look at the weather on the way headlines, those icy conditions tonight because temperatures are dropping, the squalls return, and then we've got another warm up. I'll talk all about it coming up a little later.
is.
The coach of the Roddickton Bide Arm Lumberjacks says if it weren't for rural barriers, some hockey players from the Northern Peninsula may have made it to the NHL. This past weekend, his team got a chance to face off against some former pros in a game that stirred up some hockey nostalgia and offered inspiration for up-and-coming players. CBC's Layla Baudouin reports.
Roddickton Bide Arm was the last up on the Legends Tour, which they say, just like the players here, brings them back to their roots.
Good job. Awesome.
Sutter got drafted in 1982, played just under 900 games in the NHL with 7 teams. But before he went on to play on hockey's biggest stage, he and his brothers came from a small town.
We grew up dreaming of winning the Stanley Cup. Fortunately, I won 4, along with a pretty good hockey team, but all these little ones are thinking the same.
For some, that hockey dream never died.
We had some good hockey, and some tremendous hockey players came out of this area.
Lumberjacks coach Ray Norman says he remembers a time when the entire peninsula was buzzing with hockey fever.
And Rounders and the Fishers, and then we had the Straits group, we had the Coasters.
And of course, the Lumberjacks, whose first coach, Ross Rousel, dropped the puck for the big game.
When they brought him in, I think I put a little bit of pip and vinegar in the boys, in the team.
More than a little, the Roddickton team tied the NHL legends, rekindling what these cold northern rinks are made of.
Unfortunately, in the last 10-15 years, hockey kind of died out, so it's good to come back and support our community and put a bit of fun back in the community.
Hockey nostalgia brought Gillard a very long way home to relive those glory days. It wasn't easy getting from Scotland to the Northern Peninsula.
I ended up flying from Aberdeen to London, London to Toronto. I got on a flight from Toronto to St. John's, couldn't land in St. John's, and we got diverted back to Toronto. Spent the night in the airport in Toronto, and eventually Thursday evening the next day I got to St. John's. It was like 35 hours later, and I got home, no luggage, thanks Air Canada. Packed the bag, got a bit of sleep, and then drove from St. John's to Roddickton. So all in all, it was just shy of 10,000 kilometers flying and driving.
All of it worthwhile to lace up against this lineup. Dwayne and Rich Sutter, Darian Hatcher, Brian Scrudlin, David Shaw, Darius Kasparaitis, and Bernie Nichols.
Every single one of these men have done something incredible in the game of hockey, hence the name Legends. That's what they are.
Like Bernie Nichols, who once scored 70 goals in a season, but like all of these players, remembers days like this, skating in a small town stadium.
I grew up in a little town called West Guildford.
Finishing 10-10, these local players, like the giants they faced, proved good hockey comes from small Canadian towns.
They're dreaming of winning the Stanley Cup too, and that's perfect. Dream big.
Danny Sims, who scored a hat trick, reminds us good hockey can happen anywhere.
A lot of fun to get out here with the crowd and have a packed stadium again and just be around with your buddies.
This is such an opportunity that I'm so grateful for.
Maybe not so much as her mom and dad and Pop, the team's first coach.
As for when we will see them again, the NHL legends plan to be back in Newfoundland this March. Layla Beaudron, CBC News, Roddickton by Darm.
Well, Targa in Newfoundland is still months away, but event organizers are looking forward to celebrating a major milestone. The event, which began 23 years ago, will return to the roads this fall and complete its 1,000th stage. Organizers say this upcoming achievement is fantastic, and this year's event will run from September 11th to the 18th. Ashley, I'm getting a bunch of warnings from people that it's really slippery out there, that the temperature has dropped and some ice is forming on the roads and on steps and stuff like that.
Yeah, before I left for work today, cleaned off, scraped the driveway knowing that temperatures were going to drop this afternoon. Well, this evening, really. Let's take a look at what's going on. We saw a cold front move through today. Definitely mild temperatures in the east this afternoon. There's that area of low pressure, though. That front has since moved through, which is why we're seeing that drop in temperatures. Definitely still cold up across Labrador. And those cold temperatures are going to continue to track across, or sink, I should say, across the island as well. So topped out at 4 degrees this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, southwesterly winds. That cold front has since moved through, dropping those temperatures, and a shift in the winds as well. So westerly winds at the moment down to -1 right now in St. John's. And you can see out there the rain and snow really, which ended, was very wet. So we didn't see things dry out before those temperatures have dropped. So yes, it is going to be very slick. If you haven't been out in a few hours, go out and throw some salt down, because when you will be in for a surprise. Temperatures, like I said, westerly winds are gusting upwards of about 65 kilometers per hour right now. And they're going to stay up, especially as we head into tomorrow as well. But that is leading to a wind chill. Right now feeling more like -9. Much cooler, though, for those of you in the west. Stephenville right now -5 feels more like -13. And then Labrador, you're in the minus teens for now, but your wind chills in the -20s and -30s. And that will continue tonight, because most of us are going to see some breezy conditions through the overnight. We can see that area of low pressure moving offshore at the moment, but still seeing some snow for parts of southeastern Labrador, as well as the northern peninsula. And that will generally taper off as we head through the overnight tonight. You can see that cloud moving off along that front. And we've got some snow squalls or onshore flurries for now developing on the west coast. That is going to continue, especially as we head into tomorrow with those winds becoming more westerly. We will see the potential for some squalls to develop, particularly along southern areas, so southwestern portions of the island. And then we may again see some of those flurries reach the Burin Peninsula. But for the most part, the clouds will just be on the increase, and we will be seeing some flurries for the morning hours for central, really all along the northeast coast. So temperatures tonight dipping -7 to -12 island-wide. Winds generally out of the northwest between 40 to 50 kilometers per hour, and temperatures up across Labrador in the -20s. Like I said, a few flurries sticking around, lingering in, or the chance for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and towards the coast more in the way of snow. A little more windy for you as well. Northwesterlies around 60 kilometers per hour. Wind chills tonight are going to be into the -teens and even -20s or -40s, or -30s and -40s rather, up across Labrador as you head out the door tomorrow morning, and then even into the afternoon, still dealing with those wind chills in the -teens and -20s for most of the island. So much colder than what we saw today. And again, the potential for squalls to develop. You're going to linger. The potential for flurries will linger as well along the northeast coast. Quiet weather, the story up across Labrador for the most part. Just a few flurries likely moving in for Lab West and maybe the northern portion of Labrador as the afternoon and morning for Thursday morning rolls through. Now, as far as snow goes for the snow squalls, as we head through Wednesday, those areas that see persistent snow squalls may pick up somewhere between 5 to 10 centimeters, but overall not a whole lot, maybe a trace to a couple of centimeters in some of those flurries that we see for the northeast coast. There's your temperatures, which is why, and those winds out of the northwest between 40 to as much as 60 kilometers per hour, which is why those wind chills will be quite cold. But we're going to hang out still in the minus double digits for those of you in the western portion of the island. Labrador, you're going to hang out in the -teens again tomorrow, with the exception of Lab West, where you'll hover in the -20s. But again, winds will be out of the west for you between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, but some sunshine in the forecast. And like I said, we do have another system is going to be pretty unsettled this week, another system moving in, and it is going to bring another round of potential showers and definitely warm temperatures. I'll break all of that down for you coming up a little later in the show.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, earlier today, the Premier talked about why he decided to put liquor products from the United States back on store shelves. He also talked about the challenges of trading goods within Canada and how tariffs could impact Churchill Falls.
Yes, we have. So I didn't want to make a whiplash decision last night. Lord knows the president can change his mind overnight and can change maybe he's changed it as I'm standing here now. Who knows? But we didn't want to have an immediate knee-jerk reaction, but we do respect, different than the President of the United States, existing legal obligations and existing trade agreements. So there is some obligation to have those products on the shelf legally. It would be in violation of certain agreements. That said, if he decides to put tariffs on, then all bets are off the table and he's violated his own agreement, by the way, which he signed. So that's why we decided to put them back on. Canada and Newfoundland and Labrador didn't start this offensive, but we will be responsive to an attack, but we'll also be diplomatic and Canadian in trying to de-escalate instead of escalate any behaviors. Because it's very difficult. It's historic, it's territorialism to a certain extent. It's not as straightforward as it appears. I think we should all be, as premiers, looking to eliminate those barriers, but it is certainly not as easy as it sounds. For example, if we allow the movement of alcohol, it sounds very easy, but I'm sure Quebec wine producers may have a problem with BC wine producers and having some protection over their own turf. Equally, for example, if we had a problem with the distribution of beer here in the province, then that could implicate and be a problem. Sorry, it could be a problem for local brewers, and Molson's and the other and Labatt's that brew here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So while we're committed to eliminating the barriers, which I think we should be, and it's every premier is focused on it, I think we need to be more surgical to bite off the ones that we can actually tackle and actually deal with so that this crisis doesn't pass and we didn't use this moment of disruption appropriately to advance that internal trade agenda. It's an incredible asset. The people of the United States are going to need those electrons, whether they're sold at a premium or not. And the good thing about the MOU is if that price goes up, great, we get more. So I think where the president is going to feel the pain, though, is when people go to turn on their lights and realize that there's a 10% or 25% increase on their electricity costs. And not just their domestic use, not just their home use, but turning on lights and refrigerators and grocery stores will have to be downloaded to the consumer. The trickle-down effect of the energy issue is not insignificant and is not just the price of an electron or the price of a barrel of oil. It's the ripple effect that will occur across the entire economy, which I hope is one of the reasons that he's taken a pause.
If just 10% of Canadians look at how they spend their money and reinvest it locally, we could see billions of revenue back into Canada.
We'll continue talking tariffs with the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce and what local businesses hope will be the next steps during this 30-day pause in the trade war. Well, the trade war between the United States and Canada has been put on pause, but the threat of tariffs still looms. So how are businesses in Atlantic Canada feeling about this reprieve? Joining me now in studio is Rhonda Tulk-Lane with the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
So this is a sigh of relief, I'm sure, from a lot of businesses. What are your thoughts on this dramatic turn of events from yesterday?
It's been a mixed bag of emotions just since Saturday, and this is only Tuesday. So my 20 members in Newfoundland and Labrador, as you said, a small relief, but we're still ready to get down to work and continue to work on the things that we had identified as if the tariffs were coming anyways.
Okay, and what sorts of things are you hoping to work on?
So right now, we believe that there is one job for Canada and all Canadians, and it's to build a more resilient, competitive economy. So there are a number of pathways. So we're looking at 3 different types of pathways right now where everyone has a role to play. So the first would be for businesses. That's who we serve. And it's a diversification program. And we run that where we help them enter into new markets. And this is a long term, it's not going to solve the problems right away. But we do believe that I would say the cracks that have been exposed in our foundation over the last month or so, they're going to take some long-term planning and training to diversify and be ready.
Yeah, Premier Andrew Furey even the other day said that maybe Trump did us a favor with all of this because it really showed us how utterly reliant we are on the United States for trade, and that really we should be looking to diversify. How do businesses find other markets in the world?
So it can be hard, especially for a small business, when they have a product that they're ready to export it. Where do you go? How do you find the supports? Where do you find the trusted resources? So our market entry development program that we partner with each province in Atlantic Canada to run matches the small business with a consultant, and they do just that. So they look into Europe, the Indo-Pacific, they work on the product, the plan, they set them up with different clients. They really hold their hands and walk them through the entire strategy of what that looks like to enter into a new market. So we're ready to go with that. There's no waiting. So if there are any small businesses out there that have too many of their eggs in one basket and want to look to Europe and the Indo-Pacific, we're ready to help them right now.
Okay, so diversification is one thing. What else are you looking at?
So the second thing was the shop local, invest local, look at how we can support our own companies here. This is something that, we should do all the time. And there was a Made in Canada website launched in 2018, so we were on it then, and then I believe we kind of rested on our laurels. We saw it pop up its head again in COVID, but now we're at it again. So we need to continue supporting local, shopping local, investing and learning. And some people may say, oh, that, it's not a big deal, but if everyone does something small, I think we can work together and see a difference. I heard a stat that if just 10% of Canadians look at how they spend their money and reinvest it locally, we could see billions of revenue back into Canada. So if everyone does their part, I think we'll see some progress in that direction.
And we're certainly seeing what feels to be a surge in public support for locally made products, Canadian-made products, and of course the provincial government today announced this Buy Local campaign. So do you think all of that will help make a difference for businesses?
Absolutely. I have no doubt. And I know that my 20 members at 20 chambers and boards of trades in Newfoundland are just waiting to get those resources and materials that were launched today. And some of them already have the Buy Local campaigns. As I said, we had a huge support and movement in 2023 with that. So I think it's a matter of just dusting off and getting back at it. So we're ready, and we're going to see a difference with that.
Okay, so you said 3 things. What's your other?
The third is, I think, it's a really important one. So we've got the businesses that we're going to help. We're asking all consumers to step up, support local, buy local. The third is our business leaders, government leaders. So the federal government, the provincial government, and municipalities to start picking away at internal trade barriers. We talk about this all the time. I mean, businesses are blue in the face talking about cutting red tape. So we're asking our governments right now and our premiers to come together, look at the things that can be done fast. I heard trucking, removing different barriers for trucking across provinces, but labor mobility, there's so many to choose from. I think we need to prioritize and look at the ones that we can do and move fast to make it easy for businesses to do business
We don't have a whole lot of time left, but one more thing I wanted to ask you about is, I feel like a lot of people don't really know how these tariffs could affect them personally. We hear a lot about the economy, but the ACC did some crunching of numbers on that. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned about how, if tariffs were to be imposed, how that would affect individuals?
Yeah, so this is not just a business issue. This is an issue that everyone needs to be concerned about. So unfortunately, there were some pretty scary numbers that if the 25% tariffs are to come into play, we would see every single Canadian impacted by $1,900 annually, and every American $1,300. So this is an issue for business and for consumers alike that we have to work together, because you can imagine we've been talking about the cost of living and how tough it is right now for all Canadians. Add another $1,900 onto that in their pocketbooks, it's going to be devastating.
It's a lot of money. Rhonda Tulk-Lane, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, with U.S. tariffs in limbo, Canadians have been spared a round of price shocks at the store. But as Lindsay Duncombe reports, Trump's threats may have boosted backlash against American products.
To buy California oranges or not, for Greg, the decision is about more than price.
I think, like a lot of Canadians, I don't like to be bullied.
And the pause in tariffs won't change how he shops.
So, every few hours we hear new announcements about they're on or they're off or they might be or this rate or that rate. So, to heck with that. Like, who are we? What do we want? Why should there be a Canada? Do we care enough?
The immediate threat of higher costs may be on hold, but for shoppers, grocers, and food producers, it just means continued chaos and anxiety.
It's kind of like the executioner has just delayed dropping the knife, right? And so you still, the uncertainty level is deferred, but still very high.
Many Canadians feel betrayed by the U.S., and the delay does not restore that trust.
I don't know if we can really view the USA as the reliable partner going forward that we did in the past.
Not everyone, though, has the privilege of shopping with their emotions. Canadian products often cost more.
If it was affordable, I'd buy Canadian.
Do you think it is affordable?
Absolutely not.
Left trying to satisfy all customers and not go broke, grocers like Anthony Sullivan. He ordered these stickers over the weekend and plans to keep promoting Canadian goods.
Asking customers to maybe change their behavior just a little bit. Try that local BC product. If you're used to your regular brand, maybe take a leap and try something different.
And there may even be a way to keep eating oranges. Look what Greg found.
Mexico.
Finding joy in all the uncertainty. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
And it's not just a switch to buying Canadian or Mexican products. Trump's tariff threats may have also caused a rift in the U.S.-Canadian relationship. Thomas Degg reports.
Consider it the Canadian way, venting frustration with humor at this New York pharmacy, replacing American snacks with Canadian favorites. For Toronto comedian Arsalan Shirazi, it's not all a joke.
I think there's an element of people saying like, hey, we're not going to just let you push us around because we have to stand up for ourselves. We have to push back.
Just ask any Canadian outside Toronto's U.S. consulate. You'll get an earful of patriotism mixed with anger.
I'm pissed. I think it's the wrong way to do it. It's our closest ally. It's ridiculous, actually.
This plaque thanking Canadians for their support after 9/11 is a reminder of how close the relationship between the two countries has been. But historians can name other low points like this. The Star-Spangled Banner booed in Montreal in 2003 as the U.S. pressured allies to join the invasion of Iraq. Canada memorably declined, exposing cracks in what had been a mostly stable relationship since Confederation.
That sparked a kind of emotional response that we're seeing similar to today, where a lot of Canadians are like, hey, stop bullying us, stop trying to kind of push your views on us.
He points to this Guess Who classic. written as a protest song and released amid strong anti-American sentiment in Canada over the Vietnam War.
There's always been this undercurrent of kind of conflict and cooperation that's been going on. And Canadians have had to deal with the United States in a way that most other countries do not.
This time, the patriotism is erupting with calls to buy Canadian, and the Maple Leaf seen on social media a lot more than usual.
I think that comes alongside a bit of an anti-American sentiment, a frustration that our closest neighbor and trading partner has decided to treat us this way.
Oh, Canada, our home and native.
In a new twist Monday night, Nashville hockey fans booed "O Canada." So while the trade war may be on pause, tensions still simmer.
Well, tariff uncertainty is also being felt by many Americans. The CBC's Sarah Levitt went just south of the border and found consumers and businesses still bracing for impact.
In Plattsburgh, New York, just a 30-minute drive from the Canadian border.
Everything's already expensive, so we don't need it any more expensive.
Shoppers admit they're worried about a trade war, even with this delay.
What's this tell you? Huh? I'm for the Canada. U.S. is no good no more.
Others, though, remain confident in their president.
I think Mr. Trump's doing a great job. I think it's about time we get the level the playing field.
Economists say if tariffs come, prices will go up in the U.S. as in Canada, the impact immediate. Among the biggest changes, Americans can expect to pay more for cars, fuel like gas, lumber, which will see construction prices rise, and groceries. The potential increases are concerning at this grocery store, but the manager says Donald Trump's unpredictability is just as frustrating.
We don't know what to tell our customers if they're like, can you guarantee that this will be here? I can't guarantee anything.
Hannah Stasko says she gets the sense some people don't realize just how intertwined the Canadian and U.S. markets are.
I'm a local produce supplier. We get a lot of stuff locally. Those local suppliers still need their equipment. They still need their supplies. They still need their partners in Canada that they've built relationships with.
We must sound the alarm.
For Michael Cashman, an elected official with the town of Plattsburgh, the uncertainty is stressful.
There will be a hardening on both sides, and how do we come to some type of solution for this? This could have a rippling effect that would rip the very fabric of our economies apart.
There's another worry here in Plattsburgh that this uncertainty could further strain relationships between Americans and their Canadian neighbors. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Plattsburgh, New York.
Okay, time for a look at the weather. So tell us about this warm up that's coming. That's what I want to hear about.
You just got one today. We've got another one coming by the time we get into the weekend, but we have a lot of cold temperatures to get through first. Let's take a look at what's going on. So tomorrow is going to be cold, and into Thursday, also going to be chilly. We will see mainly up across Labrador, fairly quiet. Some clear skies, just a little bit of cloud cover, but for the most part, your snow will move in as you head into the evening hours, and then across the island, overall quiet until we get into the evening as well. And then we'll see some flurries continue for those of you on the west coast. Southern areas of the island will see some snow as well, potentially, and we could see some of that reach the Avalon as we head through the afternoon. But overall, temperatures are going to stay below zero, anywhere from about -5 in St. John's through central into the minus single digits, and then the minus double digits for the northern peninsula, and same thing up across Labrador. Now, temperatures a little milder than they have been for Lab City, where you'll sit around -13. And again, late day, you'll see those flurries move in. Now, as we head into Friday, that is when the next system moves in. It will spread snow up across Labrador, along with some windy conditions, and then we're going to see that across the island. At least the first part of the day, most of us will be seeing some snow, and then another big push of mild air, this time across the entire province, the entire island, rather. So most of us will see that warm air move in. It will change the snow over to rain, and then again, as is always, once that front moves through, we will see that colder air move right back in for western portions of the island, and it'll change that precipitation over to snow. Overall, daytime highs, with the exception of the northern peninsula, you'll just be flirting with the 0 degree mark. We will see temperatures 4 to about 8 degrees across the island. Labrador, you're looking at temperatures into the minus teens. Again, central Labrador as well as southeastern portions, single digits, minus single digits will be your daytime highs on Friday as well. And then we will see that drop back down below zero for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland as we head into Saturday. And it's going to be a little unsettled, still the chance of some flurries here and there. Also some peaks of sun, but overall -2 to -4 through the weekend. And then for central Newfoundland, you'll see that drop in temperatures as well. Similar forecast, more gray though for western Newfoundland as we head into Saturday and Sunday with temperatures in the minus single digits. And then for Labrador, overall, a little warm up on Friday, but dropping back down to the minus teens and minus 20s for western Labrador as we get into Saturday, and a little warmer as we head into Sunday. Our weather photo of the day. Now, this is a good one. You got to pay attention.
Okay. I'm paying attention.
What do you see in the water? You can't tell. I know. It looks like an ice crocodile, doesn't it?
Oh, I see. It does look like an ice crocodile.
I thought that was so cool.
Is that a seagull or?
No. Yeah, ice crocodile.
Ice crocodile.
That's so great, hey? Catherine shared this photo. She was just looking outside and she saw that. Oh, so funny.
Yeah, it's like, seeing things in the clouds,
That's
but
right.
instead it's in the ice in the ocean.
The ocean. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. We'd love to see them.
All right, that's great. Ice crocodile. Love it. Okay, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.